Okay, so thank you for the scramble. It's everyone's favorite activity. Go find a new seat. I know it is. It's my favorite activity. So I have done this training before for my district. My district is like southeast Michigan, so the other side of the state. I'm from Ann Arbor, as Karina said. So there's a handful of people here who have done this training with me before. They will guide you if you have questions, but they're interspersed. They're not all over the place. So the reason I'm bringing you into different groups is because I am running this training, but you guys are doing this training. So we're here to share stories and brainstorm. I had never been to another GMM until I became district director. And then I started attending my district's GMMs, and I said, what is this? I don't understand what these chapters are doing at their meetings. This is not what I've been doing for 7 years as a JC. And I started thinking about how I could maybe help my district have better attended GMMs that did more for their chapters. And lo and behold, we have a GMM training. Thank you, Carol. It is a general member meeting. It's a dumb name. It's not entirely expressive of what we want to do with our meetings anymore, in my opinion. We don't only want general members there. Also, I will ask this question later, but many chapters, GMMs, don't even have their general members attend. It's mostly the board having a second board meeting. So how do we get it to our general members? The way we're starting, before I talk at you too much, because this is an interactive roundtable workshopping training, it's going to be 5 minutes of quiet at your tables. I hope you all have a notebook in front of you still that you're allowed to write in. If you already wrote in yours and you didn't bring it with you, go grab it real quick. We're going to spend 5 minutes, and I want you to write down every detail you remember about the first GMM you ever attended. Some of you, this may be many, many, many years ago. Some of you, this may be this year or last year. The specifics I want from you in this written memory, where was it? What was your location? Was it your very first event ever as a JC? Or did you go to an event first? Were you already a member when you joined? Or were you a prospect? Were you already a member when you attended, or were you a prospect at this meeting? Did they say the creed? Was there a pledge of allegiance? Was there any other strange culty behavior at the first GMM you ever went to? Was there food? Was there a lot of people there? Was the chapter welcoming? Things like that. So, go ahead and write, please. Another thing to think about is, what was the vibe of that GMM? Was there an agenda at your first GMM, or was it a free-for-all? Okay, I'm getting the impression everyone's sort of wrapped up, so we didn't quite take 5 minutes. But I think you're already doing the next step of this training, which is please tell your table everything you wrote down and what your experience was like. So start, someone be a leader and be the first one to go, and then just make your way around the table. Share your stories, be stunned and amazed by what other chapters do at their meetings or what other states do. Okay, my friends, please raise your hand if your table did not make it to everybody. How many people left at those tables? Okay, two people there. The one person at this table, you're now sharing it in front of everybody.
Okay, I'm Sam from Allegan. My first GMM was in December of 2017, just at a local bar downtown. I was not a member yet, but I'm a legacy. My mom is one of our senators, so I was already like familiar with the JCs, but as a kid. So I had some time apart after my mom aged out. I wasn't like involved, so I was invited to a meeting and went, and then ended up joining that night. That meeting was actually the election meeting, if I remember right. So that was interesting. Um, I think I think it was mostly the board. There might have been like one or two others, but we just had like one big table that everybody sat at. And then there was appetizers. Everybody was welcoming. We did not say the pledge, but I do believe we said the creed afterwards. That's all I remember.
Who are my two at this table that haven't yet? Oh, yeah, we're doing you.
It wasn't that long ago, but it was more further in the past than yesterday. Um, so I'm from Palatine, Illinois, and Palatine is kind of a medium-sized suburb northwest of Chicago. So the story is kind of that my wife and I had been living in the city for a while. We were starting to have kids, and we're looking for more space, and so we had bought a house in the suburbs, but literally knew no one in town. Palatine is an older chapter. It's a large chapter, so it's very traditional. There had been, Palatine runs a festival over the summer, over the 4th of July. It's a big deal in town. There's a parade, and there had been this huge controversy that had made the news in the city, which is unusual, about some protesters who were, I believe they were a right to life group. And it was a huge deal within the chapter. People were sort of fighting with each other about it and within the community. And when we moved to Palatine, I was Googling about Palatine, and the only thing that kept coming up was this right to life group that was asked to not be in the parade, not be in the parade. It was just a controversy that I kept seeing in my Google search results. But at the very bottom, it said that this particular parade was hosted by the Palatine JCs. And I was like, the JCs, what's that? Like, I didn't pay attention to any of the controversy, but I was like, the JCs. So there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? So we went to this meeting, and it was in the American Legion Hall. For a long time, the chapter met in the American Legion because they had cheap alcohol. And the room were these two long tables. And when we went in, I saw someone that I kind of knew. It was a woman that I always sat in the same train car with on my way from my job in the city. So I sat kind of beside her only because it was a familiar face. And what I quickly realized that was within the chapter, she was not cool. And literally 90% of the people sat on the other side of the room. And the uncool kids and the two prospects sat on our side of the room. And it was terribly awkward. And my wife said, there is no way we're joining this organization. And I said, no, we're going to give it a try. And we ended up joining that night. But it was really weird and really awkward. And it's absolutely not the way to do it. But it was about me and not them. I wanted to join, and they were weird. Yeah.
And then did you not go? You did go. Okay, so everyone got to tell their story to someone, right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you my story real quick. So my very first Ann Arbor JC's event was a JC's 101. Thank you, Carol. You saw where I was going. A JC's 101 event, and our president at the time, Michael Lee, some of you may know, wonderful human being, still one of my best friends. Now I'm conscious of that. Most welcoming person you could probably ever meet in a very not aggressive way. Just like, hey, I probably want to be your friend. We could hang out if you were JC. So, and also, if you were JC. One of my close friends who I knew outside of the chapter was our operations vice president, and She is the reason I showed up there, 'cause she posted on Facebook, and I was like, sure, I'll check that out. So JC's 101 got me because I got to hear a lot about what the organization did. I met the board of directors who I really liked that year. And then I went to our first GMM, my first GMM. And it was at a bar in downtown Ann Arbor, which +1, you know, having food and alcohol available for us while we're at a meeting is a good tick. We did not have our private room available. I don't remember the reason, so we were in trivia. Not a tick. We stood up and said the Pledge of Allegiance in front of everyone else in the bar. Not a tick. We said the creed, which I didn't know as my first GMM, in front of everyone in the bar. Not a tick. So I don't really remember the rigidity of the structure. We had more structured GMMs at that time than we do now, but those are my strongest memories from my first GMM 7 years ago. I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance in front of a bar. And if that had been my first thing I had done, I would not have joined that organization. So they're lucky that I joined the night of JC's 101 and then came to a meeting because I felt real culty afterwards. So that story to me, I mean, our GMMs, we still meet where there's alcohol and food, but they have pretty vastly changed. They're very structured now, but they are not formal. We do not have an agenda other than president talks, VPs talk, let's all talk together. So that's what my life is now. They're social events with maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes of talking from the board of directors in a way where you can feel free to interrupt us. We interrupt each other all the time, but it doesn't go off rails. There is an expectation that whoever's standing up is the one speaking, and there's not a ton of going on endless sidetracks. So when I started going to the GMMs in my district, and they have a secretary taking minutes, and they have printed agendas, and they vote on the agenda, and they vote on all sorts of things. And I was like, what's happening here? This is not fun. It's fun before and it's fun after, but like the meeting itself felt very much like if you were not already a member, you had no idea what was going on. And I think from listening into a lot of these stories, most of you felt that way at your first GMM, that if you hadn't been a member for a long time already, how could you possibly know what the hell is going on in this general membership meeting? So I don't like that. I mean, raise your hand if you think GMMs should be recruitment events. I would like to see everyone's hands up. You should be able to recruit someone at any event you hold. So if you don't think you should be able to recruit someone at every event you hold, I guess you don't need to raise your hand for a GMM. But if you, like Carol Pickelman, think that you should be able to recruit pretty much any time you're existing in front of people, you should be able to recruit someone. So especially if it's at a JC's event, including your monthly meetings, whoever's there should want to join afterwards. Should not be like, why did I join this organization at the last event I went to and now this is what I have to do every month? How many people here are board members of their local chapter? Do you go to every monthly meeting? A lot of hands went down. Okay. I got vocal yeses, but hands went down. Okay, who's a board member that does not go to their monthly meetings? I was like, John. John's the president of his chapter, so I would be upset if he did not go to his monthly meetings. Okay, so where are my general members of their local chapters? How many of your monthly meetings do you attend? One a quarter. You don't really count. Yeah. You go to most of them? How most of them? Most of them for general members? I at least go to the afterglow. Yes, okay. So it's interesting to ask people who are willing to come to a state event. I expect that most of the general members coming to a state event probably go to most of their events. How many of your general members who are not here today show up to your meetings? Some. Sometimes some of them. Not many. How many chapters here have like a huge turnout of their general members at their meetings? Muskegon. Okay, Yep, that's what I thought. Frankenmuth is decent? Okay. So Ann Arbor, in my opinion, runs pretty fun GMMs. We don't have a huge percentage of our general members that show up. So we all have flaws in our system of how we advertise our monthly meetings, what we do at them, where they are they accessible to people? Can people who are maybe in wheelchairs get into your meeting? Are there handicap accessible bathrooms? Do you Zoom them? We don't, so, pot calling the kettle black. But are they available to all of your members? Do your members need anything that is not present at your meetings? Why are they not coming? Do they know when you have a meeting? Is it just a second board meeting that you're holding? Because that's not fun for your general members. So this is kind of the end of me talking. The next chunk of table discussion I want you to have, with a few minutes of writing first, and this goes back to a training I did at our leadership summit. What kind of culture does your chapter have that you want people to be able to see when they come to a monthly meeting? Is your culture super fun? Is your culture straight business? We don't have any fun until the business is done. Is your culture networking and you want everyone to be able to talk the whole time and engage with each other? What is the culture that you want to show at everything you do? Everything that your chapter does should have at least a little tinge of the culture that you want your chapter to have. And then how do you bring that into your monthly meetings? Because they're not well attended. In most chapters, they're not well attended. And there's no point in the board of directors having 2 board meetings and the second one has like 3 general members at it. So do you want your monthly meetings to be less formal? Do you think that scares people away? Is there not food at your meetings? Is there not access to alcohol? Because let's face it, the JCs really like to be around alcohol. Is your chapter 18 and up? Because that's tricky if you want to be around alcohol then. So think on what your meetings are like now, different from your very first one. Think of how they may have changed. If you were not a member already and you showed up to a current GMM, would you join? No. There's probably a lot of no's. So how can you change it? How can you make your monthly meetings reflect what you want your chapter to be like? How can you make monthly meetings be a recruitment tool? I can tell you, I don't have the exact number, but Ann Arbor's recruitment, at least 75% GMMs. It's almost entirely comes from our monthly meetings. So whether we can retain them afterwards, that's a different fight. But we do have a lot of prospects come to our meetings and a lot of them join on the spot. And that's a good thing, that we don't scare them away on day one. Huh? Carol says she's proud of me. I can die happy today. Carol Pickerman is proud of me. Okay, so go ahead and write some of that stuff up. If you don't want to write, if you guys want to have a table discussion, that's fine. But I find the benefit of writing down is everyone gets a say at least to themselves. So taking some time to write, there's no chance of you being talked over when you're just thinking about it to yourself. And when it seems like your table's wrapping up and they're writing, go ahead and start having a conversation. And we'll spend a few minutes doing this, and then I might let you hang out with your chapters again and have a discussion with your chapters what you need to change. Okay, go. Yes. How many aged out people show up to your meetings that scare away the new people? Are your meetings super cliquey and no one is talking to the new people? Another thought that I meant to mention, if your chapter's members have a bunch of kids, are you meeting somewhere they can bring them, or do they have to find a babysitter every time you have a meeting or an event? Okay, wrap up your last few sentences. You don't have to keep listening to me. I'm going to have 2 people stand up and tell you what they're doing at their GMMs, because I've known Muskegans have been successful all year, and I have not made it to one, but I want to. And then I met and spoke to Brandon a lot last night, and I love what Grand Rapids has started doing. So I'm going to have both of those local chapter presidents stand up. one at a time, and tell you what's happening in their GMMs this year. We're going to start with Muskegon because dang successful this year.
Well, thank you. It's nice to hear people are excited about how successful our meetings are. I think for us, balance and consistency are the most important things. We used to try to do our meetings all over the place, like get people into different businesses, different parts of the community. Attendance really slowed down when we did that. So we partner with our local Chamber of Commerce. We have almost every meeting there, and then once a quarter, we go on a field trip. But the field trip is always still close by. And then I set the calendar at the beginning of the year with all of the locations, and then it's on the website. So people know months and months in advance where and when the meeting is going to be. I think in the past, when we had just decided the month before, that was a huge problem. We also invite a guest to every meeting. So this helps with recruitment and it makes it a little more fun. So do these guests usually fall between the 21 to 40 young professional? Yes. Do we try to get them to join after they present about their organization or business? Absolutely. But it allows our members to learn about an area of the community maybe they don't know about yet. And then I also make sure those guest presentations are super diverse. So from the arts community, from the business community, from nonprofit, it's all over the board. And they're usually people that members have asked to hear from, which is really exciting. Like we had a member at the beginning of the year wanted to hear about the local Habitat for Humanity program, and we just reached out, asked, hey, can you come to one of our meetings? They did. A lot of people attended that one. So that I think is really important. And then that invited guest kind of breaks up that structure of the agenda a little bit. Our meetings are very structured. We have an agenda. It is printed out. We do vote on it. I do call a meeting to order. But then it's kind of broken up by that guest presentation, and then it's up to them on how much fun they want to make their presentation. Like this is really a great opportunity for them to present to a lot of like young local professionals. So they usually bring videos, slideshows, they have fun with it. We had a really great one from the art museum at the beginning of the year that just was really lovely, and we're planning on doing more programming with them going forward, and we might not have done that if we hadn't invited her to come speak to us. So I think that's where most of our successes really lie, is in those guest presentations and in the balance and consistency.
On my way over to Brandon, I'll speak to that a little. I was president of Ann Arbor last year, and our by far most well-attended event was like the first thing I did as president was reach out to our county prosecutor, who is an incredible human being and used to work with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which is enough to make me want him in the same room as me. He has done amazing things in my county, Washtenaw County, and I was so excited to have him come speak to our chapter. And there are members I have not seen at a thing in years who came to that. So guest speakers, huge thing if they're the right guest speakers, because you can sometimes just bring like, we just need a person here to speak. No one cares. So bringing people that your members actually care about, are excited to see, maybe prospects are really excited to have like this one-on-one, or not one-on-one, but an intimate opportunity to speak to someone like our county prosecutor. It's a good route if you can fit it into your time frame and your structure and have cool people in your community, which we all do. Okay, Brandon.
Hi, everyone. So I am recently the president of the Grand Rapids chapter, and thanks. And so we've been kind of doing some restructuring. And when I asked my board, like, hey, what are we, like, why is everyone here? I think someone brought that, I think Chris actually brought that up during the last one, like, what drives people to be here. It coincidentally was leadership, so we're in the right space. So it was really nice to hear that. But I think like what kind of kept coming up was, you know, we always want a seat at the table. This figurative table that everyone always talks about. But I think really what it morphed into is that we want to create our own table, and not just be another part of another group trying to get our voice heard. So we've done trainings, which really hit or miss. Those can be really awesome, to be honest. And we have random new members come. Retaining them is also something different. But what we started to do at our last one, and we got like raving feedback on this, was create a roundtable discussion. So we set up our meetings now, our GMMs. We rephrase what it's called, but essentially, the first 45 minutes, food, drinks. We do it at at the Grand Rapids Chamber. We have a really awesome partnership with them, the first 45 minutes socializing, drinks, whatever, and then for 15 minutes. Like I draw the line. That is business. That is it. That's when I will talk, and Lord knows I can do that. And then anyone on my executive team, if they have anything important to say. But then from there, so that's 5:30 to 6:30. Then we immediately start 6:30 to 7:30. We have our first roundtable discussion at our last one, and so we set the topic beforehand. We're really engaged on LinkedIn more and more. So thankfully to Celeste, who's great at that, and drum up this conversation of like, what is the topic that we want to talk about. So our last one was breaking barriers, or overcoming barriers and breaking into leadership. And so we kind of get people starting to get excited about that. We email everyone before the meeting so that they know the agenda, and then anything important, so we don't have to talk all business. But with that, we had a lot of new people come. And everyone went around and got to say, like a little blurb of like, hey, I'm Brandon. This is what I do in my actual like work field. And then, why are you here to share like in relation to the topic? Like how do I show my management that I'm ready for leadership? Those kind of things. And then we walk around. We had Celeste facilitate the VP of the chapter. We go one by one after everyone shared, and basically touch on what brought people there, because people really want to be able to come and feel heard, I think, too. And so then everyone has this wonderful insight to give. We all have a perspective to give. And so I felt like we were really able to solve a lot of people's thoughts and problems. And I think people left there like feeling insanely energized based off of the reviews that we got, because we immediately send off a feedback survey, and that's something we're doing going forward, feedback survey of effectiveness of our meeting. So I think we'll continue to have really good traction with that, but next month we'll have a different topic, and going forward, and people have the option to kind of give that input too on what we want to hear.
If we had all the time in the world, I would want to hear everyone's story. When we did this in my district, we did have time to go table by table, and I heard everyone's first GMM, and I was shocked by a lot. And I imagine many of you were shocked by some of the things you heard that other people's experiences have been with their meetings. And I hope that I heard a few, that's a good idea. I'm taking that back to my chapter. So I hope that was the purpose of this. It's very rare for us to get together and be like, tell me about your first GMM. Tell me what your GMMs are like, unless your chapter is struggling and you're looking for someone's help. But we do come together as JCs and talk about JC stuff, but this, I feel, is an abnormal opportunity where you're forced to talk about a specific thing with a diverse group of people who are not all just from your own home chapter. So I hope you all got something out of this. It's not just an excuse for me to not lecture for an hour. This is how I learn best, is hearing other people's experiences. So the diversity that you get from different walks of life, different experiences, different chapters, you don't get all that unless you're at a state event like this or a national event like this. It's not very easy. So I appreciate you all participating in this and being open to sharing your experience. And I hope everyone is going to go back to their chapters and be like, listen, we need to make some changes here for our meetings. So that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.